In this short video, I'm going to share with you exactly what rent to rent is, one of the most popular strategies in the UK property investment market. Hi, my name is Mark Lloyd. I'm co-founder of Property Master Academy and been an investor now for over 16 years. So what is rent to rent? Well, most people in the UK have generally only heard of two strategies of rent to rent, but there are actually quite a few. There is, for example, one of the most popular, which is rent to multi-let or HMO, houses of multiple occupancy, rent to serviced apartment, but there's also rent to single let, there's also rent to commercial property, and a few others as well. But I'm just going to focus on those first two: rent to multi-let stroke houses of multiple occupancy and rent to serviced apartment. So dealing with the rent to house of multiple occupancy first of all, there are two variants of that. Firstly, what we're potentially looking for is a landlord who is maybe tired, has not been able to rent out their property, perhaps just is retiring possibly, but doesn't want to sell their property, who's happy to rent their property to you on what we call a guaranteed rent. Now, in other words, what that means is that the landlord will receive rent regardless of whether that property is rented out. So you will rent from that landlord at one price. You will then look to rent out that property by the room at another price, and you keep the margin in between. Now, in general terms, what you're looking to do is make an average profit per month of £100 per room to make it viable. Now, this particular strategy is a little bit more hands-on than some of the other property strategies in the UK because there's usually not sufficient margin in there to pay an agent to do this work for you. So you do need to be a little bit more involved. But if you are systemised, you could run a rent-to-rent HMO portfolio on less than 10 minutes per property per week. The second option in the rent-to-HMO model is contacting landlords who already have an HMO. Now, it could be they're, again, tired, want to retire, don't like the continual running of HMOs themselves. So you could reach a deal with that landlord on a rent-to-rent basis, again paying them a guaranteed rent, so they're receiving a fixed amount each month regardless of whether the property is rented, but your job is then to make sure that property is rented, and obviously you're going to keep that margin in between again. Now, clearly, to make this work, you need to do a lot of due diligence around the area where the property is, whether there's sufficient demand for tenants. And if you do that correctly, there's potentially a lot of money in this particular strategy because your startup costs are very, very low. On most rent to HMO properties, what you're looking at literally ranges from zero to no more than about £5,000 startup cost. And bearing in mind your target minimum return is £500 per month on a 5-bedroom property, you can see how those returns can work out very substantial indeed over a number of years. The second model is the rent to serviced apartment. Now here what you're looking for ideally are 1 or 2 bedroom flats, apartments that you can rent by the night. So you're going to agree a similar kind of deal with the landlord where you offer them a guaranteed rent so they receive a rent regardless of whether that property is rented out or not. And then what you're going to do is rent it by the night. And the way that's done is through, for example, companies like Booking.com or Expedia, where you can advertise those properties and rent them by the night. Potentially, the returns on the rent to serviced accommodation model can be quite high, but it is more labour intensive, but you do have to work on an occupancy level, usually in excess of 85% to make it profitable. It can work on slightly less figures, but I think on that basis you wouldn't be earning much more than you would be on a standard buy-to-let. So always work for those higher occupancy levels. But I say it is a little bit more labour intensive because you've got to deal with check-ins, cleaning, change of laundry, all those kind of things. As you grow, you could potentially find someone that does that for you, and certainly when you have more serviced apartments, that would be the option to do. And I'm talking really about 10 serviced apartments plus, so you can actually potentially employ somebody that will do those things for you. So that's just two models in the rent-to-rent portfolio of strategies. I hope you found it interesting. If you have, please hit the subscribe button below and also the notification bell so you get notified of more videos as they arise. And also, if you are involved in a rent-to-rent strategy or looking to start out, I'd love to hear from you. Please post in the comments below. And lastly, please take a look at some of the videos that are appearing on your screen right now as they'll help you in your property journey. Thanks for listening.